It was quite a few years ago, now 25 years ago, that I sat in these bleachers as a student at Hill Murray. And, to come back here is really an honor to speak to you about a very important subject. And then being Red Ribbon Week, it's Drug Awareness Week, but it's more about choices. Choices that you have to make now and that you're going to have to make in the very near future. The choices you make today are going to dictate where you're at tomorrow. And I remember, as a young man sitting in these bleachers, life was pretty good. As a student at Hill Murray, I achieved a lot of success. I had a lot of good friends. I was a pretty good student, and I was a very gifted hockey player. I had Mr. Lechner, who was one of my teachers and one of my coaches, so I'm not that old. And neither is he. But I remember sitting back in high school and, we kind of think we're invincible at a young age, and it's always going to happen to somebody else, and that it's the other guy, or, I'm going to dodge this bullet, or I'm going to get away with this, and that may be true, but, I'll start my story out back so I'm back at your age, so that you can understand what happened in the progression. I want you to see the choices, the progression, the compromise, and the consequence associated with addiction. And back at this time, the same things that are happening in your life today were happening back then. The music's changed, the clothes have changed, but there's still the decisions. There's still the choices that we have to make. Drugs were around back then just like they are now. The choice to have sexual relationships is here now just like it was back then. It's no different. There's different ideas and different cultures and trends, but pretty much everything is still the same. And I remember, when I was like in sophomore year of high school, and, there was a crowd that was involved with the lifestyle that I didn't really approve of. And that was the drinking and the drug lifestyle. I was focused on my friends, my academics, and my hockey, my athletics. Hockey and soccer were my sports. But I still would dabble to fit in from the peer pressure with alcohol and marijuana. Little did I know that those compromises were starting to manifest into a much bigger problem in my life. At that time, I didn't see it. And I heard speakers just like myself. I heard it from my teachers. I heard it from my parents. But I had this attitude of they don't know what they're talking about. It's not going to happen to me. As I got into my junior year, this behavior became a little bit more frequent, yet I was able to control it. I was able to continue a pattern of success, so to speak. My grades still were good. My reputation was still good. My performance in athletics was getting better. So it's kind of a thing it kind of tricks you. You know what I'm saying? So leading into my senior year, I was pretty much on top of the world. We were destined to have a hockey team that was going to be a contender for the state tournament. Personally, I had excelled. I had matured physically, emotionally, and I can remember going into my senior year, and I was very focused on the things that were important to me. And I was able to put all those other distractions aside for a time. And you'll see as I get into my talk here how things change and how that seed of addiction manifested into just a demon throughout the years. Going into my senior year of hockey, this team that I was on, of course a lot of you, or even none of you were born then, but this was a very special team. We had excellent coaches, Coach Strypeck and Coach Lechner. We had a great group of guys who were unselfish. And that year, we went undefeated. We won the state tournament. I was among the leading goal scorers in the state, and it's something that to this day, even 25 years later, you can't forget. No one can take it away. It's one of the things no one can take away. Upon my graduation from Hill Murray, and this picture here is a picture right after the state tournament. If I get emotional, it's because I'm speaking from my heart. I want you to hear from my heart. This was Coach Skrypek and myself right after the state tournament. And there's going to be a day when Hill Murray is over for you, when you have to move on in life. This was the day for me that it was over at Hill Murray. This was right after the state tournament. And I was embraced by Coach. And, you know, there was no more fame and so whatever came with being on the state tournament team, it was time for life to go on. And upon my graduation, I received a full scholarship to Providence College in Rhode Island. At that time, Providence was a very competitive team in the NCAA hockey arena. And it was a real change for me because here I went from being at Hill Murray, being recognized, having a good reputation, having people know who I was, having a sense of worth, to being pretty much a nobody. And that's going to happen to all of us once we leave here. We're going to leave our friends. All these people you're sitting with today, and your friends, I'm not saying you won't be friends with them, but they will not be as much of a part of your life. And I had to make some big decisions, and this is where I failed. I went out to Providence and not being the star athlete anymore, not being recognized, not having the attention, I made some poor choices. And those little compromises that started back in 10th grade that I didn't think were no significant were starting to be more significant. I got hooked up with the wrong crowd out east, a crowd that I felt I could fit in with. There were a lot of drugs. There was cocaine, this new drug cocaine. Prior to that drug was the last thing I would have ever thought happened to me. I was so against things like that. But I compromised my morals, beliefs, and values to fit into this crowd. And within 2 years, not even 2 years, a year and a half at Providence College, I had lost my scholarship, my dreams were shattered, and I was on a downward spiral. Little did I know that this spiral would last for 2 decades and have serious consequences and hardship and heartache. I won't get into too much of what happened for the next 20 years. We'll go over a few things. But I can tell you this, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It was a life of living hell. All my dreams, all my ambitions, all my goals were completely suppressed and crushed by my addiction. As much as my willpower and intentions to do well in life, because I wanted to do well in my heart, but the drugs had taken over. And once the drugs take over, you're not making the decisions anymore. So for those of you in here today that are tampering and experimenting with drugs, I want you to listen and listen well what can happen.